Thousands of years before history was recorded, there is evidence that prehistoric man inhabited the Bayshore area. In part, pieces of pottery and stone tools have been unearthed and validated. Bounded by the Raritan Bay, Chingarora, and Waikay Creeks and Highway 36, Union Beach is only 1 8/10 of a mile in area with a population of 6,200. In the 1700s, George Poole came from England. He married and settled in Monmouth County. He purchased 80 acres of land from John Stillwell, who was an agent for the state of New Jersey. The property was originally bought from the Indians long before 1716 by parties known as the Five Partners. On account of their disloyalty, the property reverted back to the state. Son Richard, a drummer boy in the Revolutionary War, joined the Monmouth County militia with his father when colonists united to protect their homes from marauding British soldiers who were then stationed on Staten Island. As a member of the detachment under the command of Captain Samuel Carhart, the Pooles helped capture the British brigantine Britannica in 1779 when it was caught in a wintry gale and went aground at Sandy Hook. Unable to maneuver the narrows of New York, the sailing master had sought shelter in Shoal Harbor. From a vantage point atop the Highlands, the men watched as the storm violently forced the 150-ton ship toward shore. When the storm subsided, crew and cargo were seized. Later, Richard was one of the 436 residents of Monmouth County to sign the Articles of Retaliation, a declaration to the effect that any adverse action on the part of Loyalists or Tories would be met with prompt action. Fire destroyed the Poole homestead on Victoria Place in 1910. Now, the remaining land was plotted into building lots by the Raritan Bay Realty Company, all except one tract of land that had been conveyed to the Jersey Central Traction Company by Christina Poole in 1908. As part of the bicentennial celebration of the signing of the Constitution of the United States, a bronze plaque honoring Richard Poole was placed in front of the Borough Hall in 1987, resulting in a bicentennial leadership reward. The presentation was made in Annapolis, Maryland, and an 8 by 7 foot historical quilt is designed and stitched by 12 local women, which hangs in the Borough Hall today, and it won a blue ribbon at the Trenton Fair.
Are you wondering?
46. 14 investors founded the Florence and Keyport Company with the capital stock of $200,000. Elected President Isaac Lloyd. Shareholders envisioned then a trade route between New York and Florence on the Delaware River. The company bought a large tract of land, mapped out lots, and advertised at a public sale. The Monmouth House, a 4-storied hotel, was built on the bayside at Dock and Front Streets, along with a 2,200-foot pier, a sawmill, a chair factory, and 10 dwellings, and a 1-room schoolhouse. The local livelihood consisted at that time of clamming, and crabbing, and farming, and harvesting salt meadow hay. The hay was then used on the floor of horse-drawn trolley cars in the winter to absorb snow from the passengers' feet, and also to feed the livestock. 4 steamboats chartered the sail between Union and New York, and they made several trips daily. The Armenia, one of the 4, a 185-foot vessel, was built in New York City in 1848. Princess Cottage, which still stands on our beachfront, was built as a permanent residence for T.V. Arrowsmith, captain of one of the ships. In 1857, Arrowsmith acted as head of the government of Hazlitt, Raritan Township, in its formative years. Stages from Keyport and Mattawan met the vessels until both towns began to fear that Union would be their undoing. Suddenly, the project collapsed, and by 1905, nothing remained except the schoolhouse, the hotel, and several dwellings. In the early 1920s, the Monmouth House was removed from the original site in 3 sections to Front Street and is still standing. 2 sections ended up on 3rd Street and were later damaged by fire. The Front Street section, long used as a private dwelling, is now abandoned and boarded up. District School number 50 was built in 1850. 2 pieces of slate formed the front step leading to the double door opening into an anteroom on each side wall. A large raised platform supported the teacher's desk, and among the many duties a teacher had was tending a pot-bellied stove in the winter. At the turn of the century, one teacher taught all 8th grades. Now, Florence Avenue, a dirt road, was kept in good repair, and in wintertime, when the bay froze over, with the east wind, ice cakes piled up to a height of 15 feet. Snow fell early in the season, and drifts were high. George Booth and son, Spencer, who lived on Dock Street, worked in the trolley car barn and will shove it out drifts on their way to work so children could get to school. The teacher always managed to be present, and snow days were not heard of. In later years, the car barn housed the borough's water plant and borough hall. In 1917, Monmouth Electric Company used part of the barn for electric generators. The company felt selling electricity was much more profitable than operating trolley cars, and electricity came in the area in 1899.
Prior to 1920, several local landowners met in the Harry McCandless home in Newark to plan and organize a community group. The first official meeting of the Lorillard and Union Beach Improvement Association was called to order July 30th, 1920. The next 5 years were busy ones. The Central Railroad Company was urged to build a second depot and increase service. Lots were purchased and the community hall and firehouse erected.
In addition, the Keyport postmaster was approached with a request for a substation. It opened in Parry's grocery store on Union Avenue. Throughout meetings and decision-making, the McCandless influence was a strong factor in forging ahead to the question of severing ties with Raritan Township and becoming an independent community. This was accomplished when a bill to that effect was introduced in the state legislature, passed and signed into law by Governor George S. Silzer on March 16, 1925. The Union Beach first official election was held May 12, 1925, and Charles E. Miller became mayor.
1 year later, a police department was established. Then, one by one, 4 fire companies organized, and finally in 1939, 12 men organized the first aid squad. The squad's first donation of $125 purchased a second-hand ambulance from the New York City Hospital. Albert Cowling Sr. went into the private printing business in 1924. Urged by the local businessmen, he began publishing the Union Beach Record, a weekly newspaper. It sold for 4 cents a copy and was published for 23 years. Over the years, transportation services throughout the borough had become quite brisk. Trolley car service between Sea Warren and the Highlands ended in 1923. A trestle near the barn enabled the cars to cross over the railroad tracks. Swaying over the trestle was attributed to the cars and not the trestle. After World War I, summer homes built on 20-foot and 25-foot lots became second homes for North Jersey residents. Tent City, located at the end of Dock Street, was a popular area for vacationers. Tents large enough to hold 9 single cots were set up each spring. Outdoor cooking was done on a wood-burning iron stove. The bay supplied an abundance of flounder, eels, porgies, and butterfish. Over the years, houses that survived violent storms became all-year-round houses. Jacob Lorillard came to the area in 1886. When samples of clay found to be rich in hematite and magnetic sand were analyzed, he bought over 300 acres of farmland for $35,000 and founded the Lorillard Brickworks. A large workforce was hired, building to house the workers, and a 4,000-foot pier was built to reach deep waters were established. Workers used wheelbarrows to load the finished bricks onto barges. Later, horses replaced the wheelbarrows. The stable horse was in charge of 20 horses. At the peak of the operation, workers turned out 100 million bricks a year. Streets in Chicago and St. Louis are paved with bricks made in Union Beach. The only other place in the world with equally good clay was found in England. When operations ceased in the late 1920s, the 50-foot or deeper clay pits were abandoned with its digging equipment left in the bottom of what is now Nootka Lake.
International Flavors and Fragrances came to the area in 1950. One of the world's largest manufacturers of flavors and fragrances, the company employs 800 people. Recently, the borough received $350,000 in state aid to rebuild and widen Rose Lane, an access road into IFF. It will also improve the access to the Jersey Central Power and Light Company pump station and serve as a major evacuation route for borough residents. IFF is credited with paying $30,000 in design and engineering monies for the roadway.
Bluebird Park, an amusement area on Union Avenue between Jersey and Sydney's avenues, was a lively place in the summertime. There were Wheels of Fortune, refreshment stands, a ski ball alley, merry-go-round, and Mrs. Tube's 5-cent candy apples. Curly, a friendly neighborhood dog, became a profitable attraction when at the sound of the carousel music, he leapt aboard for a free ride.
Well, I remember the Ferris wheel. The man that ran the Ferris wheel used to come from Jersey City. And I forgot the year, but we had a terrible storm, and it destroyed everything that he had merry-go-round and all the other things. And the first year that we had that bad storm, the man, he came back and fixed everything up and resumed his business for the following year. And then a few years later, we had another storm which really killed him. Everything went.
When the amusements moved to the beachfront in 1932, William Julian bought a boxcar barge from the Pennsylvania Railroad Company and headed to the beachfront, where it was lodged on the sandy beach. The interior was stripped and rebuilt. Boxing and wrestling matches were held aboard. After the repeal of Prohibition, a bar was added and dancing became fashionable. During the Depression, Julian's Boathouse became a popular night spot and was renowned for its entertainment and free snacks.
Actually, it was probably the first dance hall on the Jersey Shore. Union Beach at the time was a tourist town. People from Jersey City and Newark and up north used to travel down here and spend their summers down here. And the old boathouse at the time had live entertainment, big bands, orchestras. It was a very thriving business back in the 20s and the 30s.
There's something new and exciting in school.
In about 1937. At that time, Union Beach was really a blue-collar summer resort. And, you know, at a time when blue-collar was not a bad word. Our parents had a business up in the city and sent us down here with our grandmother. And eventually we moved down here during the war. But life was very nice down here. The beaches, during the summer, the beaches were full and clean and healthy, and the boardwalk had a merry-go-round and stands and restaurants, and it was a very well-populated summer resort for the blue-collar river.
We loved Pebble Beach. That was a beach that it went from Florence Avenue, Bay Avenue, and it had a long footbridge. way out into the meadows and then out into the bay. And it was very, very clear. So you could see the crabs crawling along the water on the bottom and shells. It was a beautiful experience, Pebble Beach. We went turtle hunting in the winter. Kids went turtle hunting. That was one of their pastimes.
It was an old shore community where what we know as boardwalks today, it was similar to that. They had ice cream stands and penny arcades and merry-go-round and penny wheels or wheel of fortune, whatever you call them today, that type of thing. And the sandy beach and clean water, and just went for a dip every day.
Everybody basically knew everybody else. And if there was a death or a birth, the whole area around it would help. And if there was a sickness, when in those days things like diphtheria and meningitis were horrible diseases, and the nearest hospital was in Long Branch, so everybody gathered around the sick and helped them.
I lived on Bayview and Spruce Street, next door to Mr. Cowling, the printer. And during the Second World War, we were told no lights to show through our windows, all lights out at night. And one time, I had cooked spaghetti, and it was so dark in the house we couldn't see to eat it. But I had a large porch outside. So the children and I sat out on the porch to eat our spaghetti. And then we used to have a man that would come around to check, I forgot what they called them, to see that all lights were out. And we'd greet him, and it's a fun time, even with the war. It was nice. I remember that. And I remember Pop Julianne's boathouse. We used to have a lot of fun there. We used to run family parties, parades. I won a prize one time at the over 40s parades. People over 40, and I won a prize. It was a bottle of scotch, I think, which I didn't drink. But it was fun.
Through the years, the residents haven't changed the way they relate to each other too much. Though due to double-income households, the frequent backyard barbecues are just a memory. However, the closeness is almost still there. The people remember what Union Beach gave them in the past and imagine what it can offer them in the future.
I think the future is, right now, if we go on the beachfront, 24 condos are being built. The poor guy that had them lost them, and I feel so sorry for him. He started, there's 6 up. The bank is now remodeling the 6 plus adding on. You want to see the gazebo they just put up? They put a rock garden up. The beautification of the beachfront is so nice. And there again, I'm going to say ripple effect. When people see that, it's going to make them say, oh, I want to do something with my property. So where's Union Beach going? Union Beach going to what we call a bedroom community. It's a community for family. Quality of life, family, you know, I don't know how else to put it. By us remodeling roads on a slow pace because of the tax rate, by cooperating with developers the right way so they can remodel, rehabilitate. We have 2 or 3 developers in town now that buy up some old houses and remodel. I'm kind of proud of it. Some people, they don't see my way. Some people say, well, he's out to make money or she's out. Well, I mean, what's the bottom line? Isn't a developer out to make a living? The developer puts people to work. They buy lumber. They have to buy oil. They have to put tanks in. Everybody goes to work. as long as they're not overcrowding. And that's what's happening in town, you know. And, you know, we have a police force. We have to provide services. We have a first aid that's on a volunteer basis, a fire department, volunteer. So we have to watch the growth. Union Beach population is approximately 6,200. And I can remember we're down to 4,900. Then I can remember went up to 6,300, close to 65. But why the population dropped is when the person moved out of a small house that was falling apart, the next door neighbor bought that property and made one piece. See, and then when the children grow up, some go off to college, some go off professional careers, and the parents still live here. A lot of the children are here. A lot of the grandchildren still live here. So that's, I can put it just like I would call it in the Bayshore Development Plan, the bedroom community as far as I'm concerned. Tourism, I could never say that this be a town for tourism. We welcome anybody to use the beach. We don't charge people to use the beach. We try to keep it clean. It costs money to keep it clean. But that's where Union Beach is going. Biggest thing is roads and drainage. We get over that hump, you have a nice little community to live in, and I still challenge the tax rate with other municipalities. I think we're still in good shape.
Our borough is now involved in trash recycling, the NPP, Neighborhood Preservation Program, and the state's waterfront development plan. When the small amount of property taxes collected during the Depression years forced the borough's financial structure to collapse under the heavy burden, the Municipal Finance Commission took control of all fiscal affairs in 1940. And at a special meeting in Trenton, 35 years later, the Municipal Finance Commission officially declared the borough of Union Beach financially solvent, and they removed the state control.
I'd like to add that we were rated, and I said this many times, in the New Jersey Magazine as number 25 in the state of New Jersey as the safest town to live in, as far as crime rate is concerned. That's in an article in the New Jersey Magazine, printed, I think, March of '93, which I'm very proud to read. And if you check our police blotter, we're very, very proud of that. You might read maybe a bicycle stolen, a tire slashed, and that's a plus. And that's a plus, again, with all the agencies working together.
Union Beach, with one school, kindergarten to 8th grade, 3 churches, a bank, memorial library, which was dedicated to the 12 local men killed during World War II, 3 plaqued century homes, a new borough hall, senior citizen center, 2 barber shops, a beauty shop, and sundry businesses, is amply protected by 14-man police force, first aid squad, and 4 fire companies. Union Beach, with its vivid history, now looks forward to the future.